what position group will determine the 49ers' success in 2022?
Man. To me, like I'm not overly concerned about any position group on defense, even though I've just complained a lot about safety. To me, like the Niners have proven the last 3-4 years that they can put together a top 5 defense, regardless of coordinator,
Yep.
regardless of their edge rushers. I mean, they always seem to figure it out. Offense is the adventure on this team. And I know everyone's looking at the quarterback spot, of course. Obviously, if Trey Lance is a bust, then they're screwed. But also with the offensive line, like what if Trey Lance is really good and they can't protect him and he, breaks his thumb or gets his knee caved in like Joe Burrow, right? I mean, it's happened.
Yep.
So
Mm-hmm.
those are the questions I have. I don't question their running backs, their tight ends, their wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're good. Their defense is top notch. What about the quarterback and the ability to protect the quarterback? Though that's what it's all about to me this whole season. And I mean, you could say that 2020 was like that, right? 2020, they lost Bosa, still at a top 5 defense. But the season fell apart because they could not protect their quarterback at
Yep.
all. They went through
Mm-hmm.
all 3. They led the league in quarterback hits allowed, and they stunk. So I don't know.
I mean, obviously, the obvious answer would be, the quarterback and Trey Lance. If he pans out, great. And if we expect him, if he does, ball out and he is what the Niners fans expect him to be, that's great. But I mean, you said it. There's two things that I look at. Obviously, the main position group I would say is the offensive line. Now, coming into last year, I would say it's the cornerback position, right? But then you addressed it by getting in a guy like Travarius Ward, Jason Verrett back. Hopefully, we don't have any injuries there. But the biggest question mark outside of maybe the quarterback, which I'm confident in, is the offensive line. Because
Yeah.
obviously you have Trent Williams on that left tackle who solidified. He's great, probably one of the best offensive linemen, if not the best offensive lineman in football. But you look at the left guard position, right? You lost Laken Tomlinson. Now, as much as Laken Tomlinson isn't this phenomenal top 5 offensive lineman, but one thing that Laken Tomlinson brought to the 49ers is that he was available. He was available every week,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now, did he have his penalties occasionally? Yes. There were some times throughout the season where on third down situations, something like that, Laken would get called for holding, or Laken would get called for a face mask. But Laken Tomlinson could go in and week out without getting hurt. And that's something that's rare for the 49ers. So as much as other teams might not value that as much, but as a Niners fan, right, I value when someone can go in and week out and be healthy and not get injured. Because as a Niners, especially in the last couple of years, the Niners have had a lot of injuries, especially in 2020. We had like almost 20 of our starters on injury, like 20 players of ours that were injured and that were on IR. So obviously, as Niners fans, we value that what Laken Tomlinson brought. But now he's gone. He went to the Jets. He got like $40 million, and I mean, if the Niners could afford him, I think they would probably brought him back. But they just couldn't, right? So that's obviously a question mark. Left guard, Aaron Banks. Will he pan out, or will he be, or will he be a bust? Will he not succeed? Will he allow a lot of sacks?
Also, real quick, I feel like left guard, it's a question mark, but like it's Banks, it's McKivitz, it's more like there's options.
There
Center?
is options.
Center? What are the
Center.
options? You
Mm-hmm.
got Jake Brendel, and if that doesn't work out, like all of a sudden, they're either gonna move Brunskill over and just shift everything around, or bring up Donovan West, who was an undrafted free agent rookie. To me, the center, they got like a hope and a
Mm-hmm.
prayer at that position, man. They don't have many
Yep.
options.
Yep. Center, obviously, you mentioned it, right? Alex Mack retired. Who do you have? You have Jake Brendel, who I've heard a lot of good things about, but I haven't seen nothing from Jake Brendel, right? I haven't seen him, in the last
Yeah,
couple of years,
man.
and I know he got hurt
They
last
say
year.
good things about Brendel based
Yeah.
on practice. Like that's a tough way to judge
Yep. Yep.
Linemen
It definitely is. It
practice.
definitely is. So
Yeah.
center, and then you have Donovan West. I mean, you have him, but the center position is definitely a huge question mark, right? And I mean, Jesse from Last Second Sports, shout out to him. He was in the chat, but he suggested the Niners should sign Jesse from Last Second Sports.
Oh, for
But I mean,
sure.
yeah.
Jesse
I mean, but
Naylor.
Jesse, yep. But I mean, the center
Shout out
position,
Jesse. He's a
right?
baller.
Like, yeah, Jesse's a man. But I mean, the center position, you lost Alex Mack, But if Jake Brendel doesn't pan out, you're kind of screwed because then you're gonna have to shift everything around. Brunskill maybe at center, so you're kind of screwed if Brendel doesn't pan
Right.
out. And I mean, the
Yeah.
Niners say a lot of good things about all their players, right? I mean, you don't really hear the Niners saying, "Oh, Jimmy Garoppolo sucks," or "Ayuk sucks," or "Debo sucks," right? You don't hear. Obviously, a coach isn't going to do that to their own player, so obviously saying positive things in practice. But Jake Brendel, that's a huge question mark. Even Brunskill, I mean, we know what Brunskill can do. My biggest, also another concern is that right tackle spot, McGlinchey. Now McGlinchey, we all know it. He's a good run blocker. But in pass blocking, he straight up sucks. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. He's not good at pass blocking, and now he's injured last year. He got injured last year. So what happens coming off of injury? What's gonna happen? Like, please, I'm genuinely curious. What's gonna happen after he comes back from injury? Because he
Right. Because
last year he was healthy.
the
What were you
logic
gonna
is
say?
like he wasn't even that great before he got hurt, right? This
Yeah,
is a really
logically
serious
wasn't that great
injury.
before he got hurt. I mean, and last year, right, he was healthy going up against a JJ Watt or someone like or a Chandler Jones. This year, he's not healthy. So if he has to go up against a JJ Watt or someone like that, he's gonna get killed.
Look, there's a large segment of 49ers Twitter that feels that Mike McGlinchey is unfairly criticized. I'm not part of that segment. I feel like he's not criticized enough. And I don't think it was a coincidence that the Niners were like 3-5 with him in the starting lineup last year. And when he went down and Tom Compton came in, they won on that run. Tom Compton is not a good offensive lineman, but he's better than Mike McGlinchey. And I think it was I mean, Tom Compton gave up like 11 sacks in like 11 games last year. It was not good, but he was better than McGlinchey. He's a better run blocker than McGlinchey. And a big reason the Niners were able to go on that run is they had someone who could back up McGlinchey and do better. So do they have that this year? I don't know. It
Yeah,
seemed like Jalen Moore showed flashes last year. So maybe him in his second year after, being in the weight training program for a
I
year,
like
maybe
Jalen Moore.
Jalen Moore.
I like Jalen
So
Moore.
if he can
Yep,
step up and do what Tom Compton did or better last year, Niners are in business.
yep,
Because I'm highly skeptical that McGlinchey is going to have a positive impact on a football team in 2022. I could be wrong.
yep. And I mean, we saw last year in the Super Bowl, right? The Bengals were really good, right? The Bengals were, nobody expected the Bengals to win the division, but what kind of lost them the Super Bowl is that
The
their offensive
offensive
line
line,
sucked. Their
7
offensive line
sacks.
sucked, right?
Yeah,
And even going
7
back to like,
sacks.
forget about Trey Lance, right? For a second, majority of us agree who's the best quarterback in the NFL. They'll say Patrick Mahomes right
Right.
now. Who's the best quarterback in the NFL? What
Right.
happened when Mahomes went up against Brady in the Tampa defense?
And he had an offensive line, he
Yeah, he
lost.
had no offensive line. And this man's
Lost.
running for his life, and he's Patrick freaking Mahomes,
There's only so
right?
much you can do, right?
Yeah, so Patrick Mahomes can't win with a bad offensive line or offensive
Reggie
line that's
McKenzie
questionable.
once told my dad. Reggie McKenzie played in the league and was the not Raiders GM. His phrase was, "The big people let the little people play football." It's true. It's
Yep,
true. And to
yep.
me, like,
And
hold on, real quick. The Niners are all about drafting and investing in defensive line. I get it, but defensive linemen those are positions you can platoon. You can have your run defenders, you can have your pass rushers, and you can have guys playing 50% of the snaps. Offensive linemen, those guys play 100% of the snaps.
yep,
And if he's weak in run blocking, pass protecting, that's going to get exposed at a certain point. He
mm-hmm,
better be really, really, really good. So to
yep,
me, I'd be more invested in the offensive line than the defensive line. But that's not how the Niners do their thing, and they're very successful. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's how I feel.
yeah. Offensive line's probably the biggest question marker, and if that will determine their success. And I mean, like I said, Super Bowl last year, Bengals didn't have the good offensive line. Joe Burrow couldn't do nothing, especially on that. He got pressured, had to get rid of the ball, game over, right? So you need a good offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, you can manufacture pass rush, right? Blitzes, stunts. There are things you can do. You can't really manufacture pass protection. You either got guys who can block or you don't.